Hey guys, ETP Duelist here. We're going to do a top 3 decks of the format. It's going to be more quicker with my voice work. I'm just going to edit the audio instead of just reading from a script. We're going to show de-ed footage over top, so it's not going to be boring. And we're only doing 3 decks because I feel like there's only ever 3 relevant decks in the meta at any given time. Keep in mind, this is the beginning of the year. This is seriously, this is the second day of the new year. So right now at the present time. I'm not counting future sets or OCG sets. We have no idea when they come here. So without further ado, here we go. My top 3 decks of the format. Number 3, we're going to go with Giri. And the reason I think this deck is just so good, and it's the number 3 spot, is because it just explodes with advantage. Even if the deck doesn't get its OTK off, it still has things like Giri and X, which just adds cards to your hand for free. Gear, which just special summons 2 Giri monsters for free. And then you got armor, and the whole deck's pretty much just advantage. When you consider you can run Redox and Birdman for good OTKs, and you have reliable, powerful synchros like Crimson Blader plays and Stardust that are all really easy to go for. Not to mention disruption about your monster effects, like all the Katakuri monsters are about switching opponents' monsters from defense to attack and vice versa. That just really messes with an opponent. And if Katakuri just get away with their stuff for too long, like if there's not a skill gen on the field, that deck will just destroy whatever is in the meta. Not to mention, you can tech things in like limiter removal. If you want to go a little bit more Katakuri heavy, or put in another Giri accelerator for more consistency, you can. So the deck's also kind of flexible. An opponent doesn't quite know what to go for. Number 2 is definitely going to be Mermail. I like Mermail a little bit more than Katakuri Giri because Mermail, they can just explode right away, whereas Katakuri kind of has to wait a turn for Giri Gear. And, Mermail, if they get stopped with an effect failure, well, they still have a little bit more options available to them, whereas Giri Katakuri, sometimes Giri Katakuri will fall into the same trap they've always fell in, where if you effect failure them at the right time, it can just be all over for them. Mermail's Abyss Sphere is way more better of a defensive card. Giri, yeah, that's really good if you want to go offense if you're going to play on the end phase. But Abyss Sphere can work as you can just set the Lindy, and then they blow up Lindy, and then boom, you got Abyss lead, which is 2700 in the face, which is pretty hard to deal with. Not to mention, you can just throw Lindy defense mode, and then they can throw down, and then you can just throw down, if you can't give up on Mermail for some reason, just fodder something else off. So, another thing is Mermails have a lot of good defensive options, and this is what a lot of people just miss, and I'm sure a lot of Mermail players are clapping their hands saying thank you. They have Armored Kappa. You could put in Maestroke. There's, I forget, that rank 3 Mermail exists that if it gets destroyed, it will special summon a Mermail from the graveyard. Keep in mind, there's Bahamut Shark, which could special summon any rank 3 or lower Xyz monster that's water. So you could special summon this 2800 defense Mermail monster that if it's destroyed, special summons a Mermail from the graveyard. So the deck is better than Giri Katakuri in my opinion, just because it has such good defensive options. This deck can go OTK, crazy, Deep Sea Diva into Marksman, and then you drop the Mega Low. And yeah, even with Diva at 1, that's probably not going to happen. I give you that. But you can just spam out things like Aqua Spirit. The deck, it just has so much variety. It has so many options. It's got to be number 2. Okay, here it is. And I want to be the first to admit that I was just really criticizing this deck being the number 1 spot when people brought it up. I did not believe this deck would, be tier the best. It's not tier 0, don't get me wrong, but Spellbooks, you get first place. Because Fate is just so good. Because Konami slowed down the format so much, the Spellbooks just get advantage so fast. You can go to World of Prophecy, which is an upgraded Judgment Dragon, which is ridiculous. You pretty much have to main 3 effect failures to get Spellbooks if you don't want your board nuked. The other thing is they have, I'm not going to say they have anything besides Fate and Secrets, a blue boy. It's pretty much just gonna be Fate and the world. You know, yeah, they can go for High Priestess, which really, it's kind of Master Hyperion. She's kind of a worse Master Hyperion. Um, yeah, the deck is very linear. A lot of people, will kind of criticize my choice and be like, well, if you play deck Devastation Virus, they lose. Yeah, that was actually one of the reasons I didn't like them in previous formats, especially the Dragon Rule format, because I found, you could run three Eradicator Epidemic viruses, and Eradicator Epidemic virus, they really need spell cards. They can't even live without any. Um, their options for traps, they're just kind of splashing in traps. It doesn't really matter what kind of traps you play. You can play Trap Hole in the deck, it doesn't matter. You're just kind of putting traps in for the sake of having some defense. So, Spellbook, I'm gonna give you the number one spot, even though you're so linear and I hate you. I could make a list of, other decks that didn't make it for various reasons. I might do that later. And yeah, ENT Duelist out.